this symposium came to me as so many different things were happening around Aboriginality. And the I Don't Know More movement, and UBC is putting itself out there as a kind of champion of indigenous studies. But there's work to be done, I'm sure indigenous scholars and students will say. And as I was thinking of all of this and how there's some people who are both academics and activists, the idea began to germinate in my mind of bringing people together. Initially, I thought within the Faculty of Education, but then I thought, what's happening in the rest of UBC? What kind of activities are people doing? And how do people really collaborate together? What does that look like? What's sometimes called ally politics. What ought to be the stance that one takes when one does ally politics? So it was out of those kinds of concerns that the idea for We Too Are Idle No More came about. And for me, as somebody who does not know nearly enough about indigenous thought, this was juxtaposed with another statement which has really resonated with me. Idle No More really resonated with me as a declaration. But so too does a phrase by Audre Lorde, the idea of working on the edges of one another's struggles. A really, really powerful statement about how to work with others, working on the edges of one another's struggles. Not coming to take over the struggle, not sitting back and saying this has nothing to do with me, but working with respect, with some reverence for somebody else's struggle. And it's these two ideas that come together, one indigenous, one by a radical black feminist lesbian, that coalesced for me in how we might want to think about today. And I just wanted to say a few words about how I think about how some of this work might be done. I'm really inspired by a collaboration by two people, one a Pekeha, the other one a Maori from New Zealand, of course, Alison Jones and Cooley Jenkins, and their essay, Rethinking Collaboration, Working the Indigenous Colonizer Hyphen. And they take the idea of working the hyphen from Michel Fine. And my thinking around this is we ought to think about such collaboration as working the hyphen. And, but the hyphen involves both border and bridge in a way. Vanessa Andreotti translates a declaration by Gina Valdez-Dos. There are too many borders that separate people, but for every border there is a bridge. So this is relevant, I think, for how we want to think about people working across difference, in this case, across indigenous and non-indigenous. And the idea, I think, is we shouldn't rush too much to the idea that, oh, we know the other and we can work with the other. There's a danger in that, the danger in erasing differences. At the same time, so what happens when we do that is we reduce the other to the same. They're just like us. Their struggle is just like a black struggle, right? So you take on somebody else's struggle and make it into yours. Or we say they're an other that I can recognize, right? Instead of either of those two, we want to really practice a politics of alterity. That is the idea that we cannot fully understand the other. And when we come to our work in that sense, then we have a better chance for that work being successful. At the same time that hyphens separated, hyphens are also bridges that bring us together. So they hearken to the possibility of working across difference, even in spite of different paradigms, different ways of thinking, etc., etc. And Elder Larry Grant pointed to something that I want to end with, which is a book that I've assigned to students to read, and I heard him also speak on this topic, John Ralston Saul's book, A Fair Country, which if you hadn't read, you definitely should. And his idea really excites me. including one statement that he makes at the opening of his book, where he says, and I quote him here, "We are a Métis nation. What we are today has been inspired as much by 4 centuries of life with the indigenous civilizations as by 4 centuries of immigration, perhaps more. Today, we are the outcome of that experience." So to extend Saul and to conclude with a more self-reflexive, question-generating rather than premature solution-proffering approach is to end with the following questions among others. What might it mean to reconceptualize Canada, reimagined not as a white settler nation with its values and history emanating from England and France, but as always already a Métis nation of nations on Turtle Island? What might it mean to undertake critical multiculturalism and/or anti-racism work in such a reconceptualized Canada and fully incorporating interested indigenous scholars and ways of knowing? What might it mean to work the hyphen as a multiple and dispersed project rather than a singular indigenous, non-indigenous binary? What might it mean to do ally work as an example variously of Audre Lorde's working the edge of one another's struggles, Saskia Sassen's institutionalizing the in-between, and Stuart Hall's without guarantees? Now, these are only my own very vague initial thoughts on non-indigenous ally politics with reference to indigenous peoples and issues. We have a full day today, including a mixer during which we will continue to share and discuss many of these takes. Some of the issues that I've raised and go beyond. So I just want to say a warm welcome to you. My name is Wright. I'm the director of the Center for Cultural Identity and Education. I'm also a faculty member in education. So once again, a warm welcome to We Too Are Idle No More. Thanks.